Roman numeral 1, having received salvation of the highest standard. I heard people, especially Southern Baptist people, they like to use Ephesians 5 and 8, because in these two verses it is repeatedly speaking that we are saved by grace. They only tell this much, saved by grace, but they never pointed out saved to what extent. If you read Ephesians 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, you could see this salvation by grace saves us to where? To the third heavens. This morning, according to God's salvation, I'd like to ask you all this morning, where are you? Where are you sitting? Sitting on the second floor of the ballroom meeting hall? Poor. Where are you sitting now? In the third heaven. How high? You tell me how high. The standard's too high. Saved by grace to where? To ballroom, meeting hall, second floor? Or third floor? We don't have one. Even we do have one. That means nothing. We are not in the third floor, third meeting hall. We are in the third heavens. Saved by grace to the third heavens. Saved not. You read your Ephesians chapter 2. Not like the Ephesians chapter 2 of the Southern Baptist. You see, Southern Baptist, Ephesians 2, saved from sin. But our Ephesians 2 says we are saved from death. We are saved from death by being enlivened, and by being resurrected, and by being what? Seated in the third heavens. This is the highest standard of our salvation. This morning, I don't stress that much, saved by grace, surely. Everybody's saved by grace. Without grace, we can never be saved. But we have to stress and we have to shout that our salvation is so high that we all have been saved to third heavens. Hallelujah. We are there. And right now, we should say, we are here. Not here on the second floor, but here in the third heavens. This is the highest standard of our salvation. No doubt this is by grace, through faith. You all knew this already. Roman numeral 2. Yet, we still need to work out. You received. To receive is one thing. To work out is another thing. Then what is to work out? It is not to accomplish. To work out is not to accomplish. To work out is to carry out the salvation. You have received the salvation, but now you need what? To carry out this salvation by constant obedience. You know, in the pattern which we see, the striking point is the obedience of that pattern even unto death. I tell you, obey always in verse 12. This obey refers back to the obedience of the pattern. Right? He firstly took a major step to empty himself by laying aside what he has in deity. Then the second step, he humbled himself in manhood, in humanity. He humbled himself to do what? He humbled himself not to serve. He humbled himself not to work. He humbled himself to obey. Obey. In the Bible, obedience is better than everything. Right? 1 Samuel 15 says obedience is better than even sacrifices. Christ emptied himself, humbled himself, then he obeyed. You see, in his deity, he emptied himself. In his humanity, he humbled himself, then he obeyed. Now, we who have received the salvation and who have taken this pattern, we need to obey. Always. Not only in his presence, but also even in his absence. So we have to have the constant obedience with fear, right, inwardly, and trembling outwardly. We need to obey in such a way, fearful and trembling, fearful within and trembling without. We must be this kind of person. Then Roman numeral 3, God is operating in us. And this is our salvation. Our salvation is not an action. Our salvation is a living person. That's God himself. And don't forget, God here must be the triune God. Amen. Now, this triune God operating the will within. You just tell me, where is the willing within us? It must be in our will. And this proves what? This proves God's operation begins from our spirit. By the last verse of this book, you can say this, because the grace is with our spirit. Yet, God's operation goes from our spirit into our will. You see, God operates both the willing. Our willing is not in our spirit. Our willing is something out of our will. So this proves God's operation must have entered into our will. And the operating, the working without. I tell you, saints, this corresponds with Romans 8. Romans 8 firstly tells us God is working in our spirit, then he works in our mind, eventually he works in our physical body. See, for us to work, firstly is a willing in our will, and secondly is activity in our physical body. So what? So this indicates that the triune God works in us from our spirit, through our will, and into our physical body. We will in our will, right? And we work in our body. For his good pleasure, this is the heart's desire of God's will. I just have no time to get into this. Every time I was all the time afraid of touching this matter. It's too deep. The good pleasure of God. Do you have a good pleasure? You must tell me. Every living one has a pleasure. And even little cat, he has a pleasure. Right? Now, I saw Maya, when the little cat gets a little mouse. You know? He just, he just, work on that little mouse. And sometimes, he dropped the mouse on the floor, and he looked at it. She played with the little mouse. I think we all saw that, right? When I saw that, I was, my, this is the good pleasure of the kids. You just tell me what the good pleasure of God. What the good pleasure of God. The good pleasure of God is to play with you. To play with you. I tell you, in these 10 days, He's playing with us. God is happy here. This is for us to reach the climax of His supreme salvation. I purposely selected these two words, climax, supreme. This is to reach the climax of His supreme salvation. Hallelujah. So, we are now in His good pleasure.